Absolute bedlam. Absolute bedlam. Absolute bedlam. Talking about topics and stuff. Absolute bedlam. Absolute bedlam. Absolute bedlam podcast. Who? What? Where? Why? Tonight on the show, as we can probably see, we've got Scott Middleton, who is the ex-guitarist of Cancer Bats, and now he is a full-time professional music producer / band mentor. So how is it going over there, Scott, over the pond?
It's great. Things are starting to open back up post-COVID, and I've got my recording studio that just opened just in the last couple weeks, and I've been working on building that for almost the last year, really. And about a year ago, my family and we bought a house in kind of like about an hour and a half outside of Toronto, and decided I wanted to build a studio there. And took time, and obviously, like with supply chain delays and everything, that the whole world was experiencing, building a recording studio wasn't the easiest, but I finally made it. So I'm really excited. It's been a long time coming. I was previous to here, I was working out of a studio called Schoolhouse, which is in a town called Hamilton near Toronto, and it was great, but I didn't own it, and I really wanted to have my own workflow and, be closer to home and my family, similar to, stuff already going on with the band. Like it was just kind of like a focus where I'm like, okay, what can I do to, figure out my work-life balance and, and integrate it. And so far, we just had the first band in last week. And it was an amazing experience. I was like, just grinning. Everybody was like high-fiving and having such a good time. And, it's, the calendar's booking up real quick, and I'm really energized. It's one of those things, like, been so kind of like a little bit down in the way of being like, oh, this took so long to have happen. And I had so many amazing people help me that I wouldn't have been able to do without. And now that it's finally kind of this dream realized, it's like I'm so much more energized than I have been since the start of the pandemic. So it's really cool.
Yeah, I think everyone's feeling that a bit, especially in the UK, where they've basically just said there's a war on. So COVID now goes right to the bottom of the priority list. And if you've got it, just go to work. Don't worry about it,
yeah.
Which is mental.
Yeah. That's kind of essentially like the start of this month. That's kind of how it all went. It's kind of it's sort of surreal, isn't it?
Yeah.
But so I mean, the cool thing is, aside from that, I've got, like, with the world opening up again, I've got this awesome band from Australia called Haters flying over to stay with me for the next month, and we're gonna make a full length. Really pumped. It's been going good, and I mean, it's again, like, having something that I built from the ground up with my friends and family. It's there's nothing quite like hearing the first note ring through the speakers and it sound amazing. And exactly like everything I wanted to. And so pretty happy about it.
I imagine it's like smashing the champagne bottle against the Titanic and it's ready to sail off, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you go. That's it. It's
fantastic.
Really cool.
I'm glad that it's all working out for you. One thing that we will get to is, with you, it seems like a through thread of your life that you are very family orientated now.
Yeah.
Feels like you wanted to be closer to them, and COVID potentially gave you a bit of a decision tree.
For sure it did. I mean, I'd say it goes back further than that, though, about another 10 years, though. So 10 years ago, this past February, I lost my mom to cancer, and that was really tough on me and my whole family. And And I think that was a real like turning point in my life, and it made me question all the things that I ever took for granted and the lifestyle decisions, and what it meant to be away from home. Whereas, when I would be young, you couldn't keep me home. Like I didn't want to be home ever. I wanted to travel. I wanted to hang out with friends and make music and be out all night and, not care. And that's why I think, being in a band and a touring band, especially, just, it really spoke to me for like, the, the like previous 15, 20, 25 years of my life. It's all I thought about. It's like that was my goal as far as I can remember back in high school. I was like really wanted to do that. And it became a reality, and it was amazing, absolutely amazing. But I think losing my mom was like, made me realize like, oh, you're like, we really have a finite amount of time with the people that we care most about. And and so there was some like inherent I think regret to me being away so much and not caring. I mean, I think it was important for me to do, and I don't look back at anything I did with regret. And that it's just more like like if I'd known my mom wouldn't be here, would I have maybe when I was home made more of an effort to spend more time. It was a tricky thing. And I think also I remember going on tour right away, like a few weeks after her funeral type thing, and just because that was the schedule and it was my job, and that was really hard and really lonely, and it was it definitely made me question so many things. I was really lost. It's a dark place, and I think like anyone who's lost a parent, or someone very close to them like that, it's they'll understand how hard that can be. And and I think that was it's one of those things. It took me quite a while to feel myself again. And and not just a couple of years. Like I really feel like I didn't truly get over that loss until the birth of my son. It where all of a sudden it just I felt with having him in my life, it felt whole again in a lot of ways, and gave me a different kind of purpose, and testing responsibilities and bad habits of mine, figuring out about you've got someone to provide for, and really protect, and care about their future more than my own, even, if that makes sense. It's just
definitely
so many things. And then just kind of I think that was a thing. And also just other things like my wife and other sacrifices other members of my family were making to accommodate my lifestyle of being gone. It's a lot to ask for a long amount of time.
Definitely.
And I think and anyway, so I think that really gave me a new mentality shift in terms of recognizing what would be most important, and where I was willing to compromise, and where I was going to insist that things never sorry here like and that was just super important for me to never back down from. I think in the end I really, how do I say it, like I needed to have more control in my life. I needed to have more control. I didn't want the outside influences of something as much as I even loved as my own band, if that
Mm,
makes sense,
mm,
to dictate of like when I could
mm,
spend time with my family or not.
mm.
And I didn't want to miss things like my son's first birthday to go play a show type thing like that.
Yeah,
that
I get
that
that.
was really really difficult for me to process. Just one, just as a simple thing, and no hard feelings about any of that stuff. It's just I think I felt um I felt like the new situation that I was in my life, with becoming a father and starting a family, um, it felt more important to me than anything else.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
by far, yeah,
like a greater power.
yeah, like absolutely. And I think what I kind of realized was that, um, how do I say this? Like, I don't think I was as hungry
Yeah,
to go do the same things that I'd done many times over again, if that makes
yeah,
sense. Like, having toured so many of the same places,
yeah,
and and again, I think it's because I had amazing success and incredible memories,
yeah,
with so many other people and my band and the bands we got to play with, and I achieved all these dreams that I never thought would be possible
yeah,
when I was young. I realized it all, and I think the new challenge in my life was, okay, like, how can I, you know
yeah,
be a family, how can I be a good family man, and how can I do the things creatively that I want to keep doing. And as much as, being in a band was really cool,
mm,
I'd always wanted to be a producer and record bands and engineer. Like, all that stuff was really interesting to me, since I was really young. and
yeah,
and it's something that I've never really let go of. And then in the last 10 years, it became kind of a side focus for me. That, when we kind of, like, we used to, like, in the early 2000s, Cancer Bats, we would tour like hundreds of days a year, not just oh, okay, if 4 months, whatever, a few weeks here, a few weeks there,
mm,
bunch of weeks off. We would be constantly on tour,
yeah,
and that was amazing. And I don't want to trade that for anything. That
yeah,
was awesome. uh but as we started to have gaps in our schedule, which was good.
mm,
I had time to explore, the production side of music, and I loved it, and I wanted to just not not stop, really, and I wanted to keep going.
yeah,
I loved working with other bands, and I found myself feeling so um full of, like, gratitude to have the opportunity to help other people
yeah,
in the way that like the producers and the people in the music industry had, like, helped myself and my
yeah,
band become better musicians and better people, and
yeah,
stronger professionals in the music business. And that became just such a fulfilling thing,
mm,
like, that's where my mind was getting focused more. It was less about wanting to create more of the same,
yeah.
if that makes sense.
It
I got
does.
I got
Yeah,
energy. Yeah, I think I felt a bit energized by the prospect of working with so many different types of musicians and styles of music. People that had amazing talent in ways that I wouldn't, um, you know, just wouldn't necessarily be inherent in my own creativity to write that way. But then I'm afforded this opportunity to
yeah,
work on their music and offer my own perspective.
yeah,
It's just such a cool scenario,
yeah,
and it's fun. It's fun, and it's just, I love giving that value to other people that way, just from my own experience. And I think I learned a lot about myself in that. And
Yeah.
I think just similar to uh, the idea of being like, okay, I've toured these places so many times and I love it. It's great. But I'm 40 and what is the next 20 years of my life going to look like?
Yeah.
And then with that, in terms of musical like creativity, I think I felt like if I just sat around trying to write the same record over and over again, or every time I pick up the guitar, I felt like I was, it was not that inspiring. And, on top of, having that sort of like, it gave me a bit of like a writer's block with some stuff. I'd say like I felt like just this, like, okay, and then and it's like I think one of the things like that would always kind of come up with me and the guys that was difficult was I don't like sitting by myself and writing music. I find that kind of boring unless I'm just happen to be very inspired, and there's always flashes of that, and I like that, but I'm not necessarily the person who's going to write all these songs just sitting by myself. I like music as a social activity.
Yeah.
I like to be in a room with people jamming, and that energy and that creative feedback.
Yeah.
And push and pull in the room, that's really exciting to me. And I think I missed that as like my as my band sort of like moved away from each other geographically.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think from what I'm getting from you, obviously I've only just met you.
Yeah, it's all right.
But you love the idea of collaborating and the idea of sharing ideas, from what I can tell. And I think the days of being stoic with information are past us, really, where if we learn a new skill nowadays, we want to pay it forward and we want to share it, don't we?
Absolutely.
Rather than just sitting on it and just being like, haha, you have to come to me now if you want to learn how to do this thing. Yeah, I can relate to that.
No, for sure. Yeah, and I think that's just I missed having like a regular band practice to like write records, like and I mean I understand totally 1000% why we had to change that. I think it just wasn't as creatively inspiring for me to stop doing that. Like it just I mean, the guys will tell you we've had loads of conversations about that stuff. It was hard and frustrating, and I mean I think it was one of those things like in the end, like I really didn't want to hold my band back, and guys that are like have been my amazing friends for years, like who are massively talented people, like I don't want to hold them back from doing something that they want to pursue further, and in a certain way that they're like they love the way that they're writing, as I think you know what I mean, like in terms of just the scenario of being like, okay, well, we get together when we get together, we're sending ideas over the internet and all that. I don't know, like I mean, again, it's not the end of the world, it's fine, but like with just where my life was at, I just started going in a quite a different direction, with a lot of that, and then on top of just kind of being like, okay, like trying to learn to be a father, that's a really difficult thing. I really need to focus on this. I really need to be there for my wife and my family. And we just bought a house, and there's tons of renovations, and on top of that, I'm trying to build a studio for my future. And it's like, it's hard because I think like how do I say it, like I'm working on music all day long, like with other people's music. And at the end of the day, it's like when I'm done, the last few hours of my day, I I can't really sit there
Hmm.
just like writing riffs till 3 a.m.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, there's a saying, especially in the UK, that you hear a lot is the worst person's car is going to be the person that fixes cars all day. The
Yep,
mechanic always has an absolute shit car because they don't have time to fix their own. So yeah, I
exactly.
can
And
kind of
and and I know that having a good family friend as a mechanic, I
mm,
completely know that to be true.
yeah, you're just ringing off the hook all day. You don't have any
Yeah,
time to
yeah.
focus on your own stuff. Yeah,
Well,
there's
exactly. And I think that's the thing for me is, when I sit back and I think about, what it meant for me to be in Cancer Bats and
yeah.
be fortunate enough to be in a band as successful as that.
Hmm.
It it was my like absolute focus
Hmm.
for the first I don't know, for the first 4 or 5 records, whatever.
Yeah.
Like that's all I cared about. It's all I put it first as much as humanly possible that I was capable of. And I loved it. But I think as my life changed and
Yeah.
as I was debating whether this would be the way forward, um there's other things. I lost my brother-in-law, who was like my best friend, and
Hmm.
what an absolute mentor to me. At the same time, he um suddenly passed away, and that was crazy. My dad almost passed away in that same week. It was there was like a lot of
Yeah,
heavy
man.
stuff like
Yeah.
all at once, and I was just like, how do I say, like
Mm.
um I don't know, like I recently just watched this Stephen King miniseries called um 11/22/63. I don't know if you saw it.
No.
it's
What's
it's
that on?
about it's it's about the assassination of JFK.
Okay.
Essentially, like the synopsis, it's like James Franco's the
Oh,
actor in
right.
it, and it's
Yeah, I
like
like him. Yeah.
essentially he like finds a way to travel back to the past, and he's on this mission to prevent the assassination of JFK. But
Okay.
every time he gets close to changing something that's happened in the past, it's like the past pushes back at him.
Right. Okay.
And yeah, and I don't know, maybe it's just because I just finished watching it, and I'm just
Yeah.
making this parallel
Yeah.
that's maybe far-fetched, but it how do I say it, as I was like debating what I was going to do with my life and whether I should continue with the band.
Mm.
I think like, I mean, even though I knew that this is what I wanted anyway, it was just all these signals of like, I've got to be there for my family. And if
Yeah.
I wasn't already like, basically like 2 feet out the door, um, like
Mm.
it, if I was still in the band, I wouldn't be able to give anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It would just, everything would just be such
Mm.
a fucking mess. And
Struggle.
and that's,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's the thing, like as I was going through a lot of the hardships of 2021 that my
Mm.
family was dealing with, like, the guys in my band understood. They were really uh I mean, we're all friends. It's
Cool. Good.
like it's cool, like I
Yeah.
know, situation's not perfect, and in a perfect world, the band's like pinnacle lineup stays together forever. It's just,
Mm.
I
Mm.
think for me, I just I saw like, not the past pushing back, but I saw my
Yeah.
life and reality pushing back at
Yeah.
me, and just being like, you got to be there. You
Mm.
can't not be there for the people that depend on you and
Yeah.
need you, and have already given me so much too.
Mm.
Again, it all kind of made sense, and
Yeah. Fair enough.
in the end, and thankfully, yeah, thankfully nothing else has happened since, and
Yeah.
my dad's recovered, and um and I'm able to try to be there for my family, and again, just this other dream of mine's been realized now with my studio opening, and I feel like my purpose is a lot clearer, and I'm excited to try other new opportunities and keep working in the music industry. Like there's aside from doing the production thing and helping bands, whether it's sort of in a management capacity, there's other things like I want to start in the town that I moved in. I want to start building the music community up here, because it's like a beautiful area. There's loads of talented people and there's nothing going on. There's just it needs some organization or someone to just wave bands this direction. And I don't know, I want to be surrounded by more music. I may have moved away from the city, but I would love to just give another place for bands to go and play a gig. So I'm looking into doing more stuff like that. And kind of just, I don't know, trying to do more community based things, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense.
It's I don't know.
So,
I kind of go with the flow. I go with the flow on things and see where life takes me a lot of times. And so I'm trying to be a little bit more, how do I say it? Organized in the way that, I'm going to focus on a couple of things at a time and see like how, if I can do that at like a peak level that I'm like really happy with, what else can I take on, or what other directions could I go before I step too far out of a comfort zone or something like that.
I think you want to hit everything with as much energy as you can give it at that time, because otherwise you dilute yourself and everything's at 10%. Well,
exactly. And I think that was the thing that I think really hit me about Cancer Bats. In the way that I realized I would have to step away, was feeling like, okay, I'm not giving enough of myself to my bandmates that would like it, or when they would like it. If I'm going on tour and my mind is thinking, oh, I'd rather be at my son's birthday party right now that I'm missing more than anything, how's that fair to the fans that paid the tickets to our gigs? Like they want to see us give it our all as much as possible, and I mean, obviously nothing's perfect and people understand situations, but it's tough, because I've seen bands that I was really excited to see, and they've played shows that I thought they maybe phoned it in, and it was like, I felt betrayed, if that made sense.
I do understand that. Definitely.
And I think like I didn't want to put my band in that position, myself, the fans, any of that, like, and I like to do things with as much integrity as possible. It's like it's really hard for me to not be genuine and speak openly and honestly and perform and do something creatively in that regard. And here's the thing, like, I don't rule anything out. Like I might like, in a couple of years be like, hey, like I want to start a new band. I want to write a record. I don't know. Like, again, it with like, with production and working with other bands, I feel like I'm getting that satisfaction of writing and creating new records like every month. Even if it's just like one of the things that I've been doing a ton over the last few years is loads of mastering for bands. And I like that because it's this sort of a technical art, but it's cool because I can still have control over how the emotion of songs are conveyed by the different areas and the colors of the frequency spectrum that I'm choosing to highlight and bring out the best in what the mix engineer's already done. Like that side's really fun to me, and that was a new challenge. I never set out to be a mastering engineer, but I ended up realizing I was really good at it and
Yeah.
having a lot of fun with it. And it's those kinds of experiences like that. That's what's just really exciting for me now,
Yeah.
I've had some people reach out and since I left the band with such amazing heartfelt messages, and that they really
Understood.
I don't know, they really understood, or they thanked me for just music that was really important to them, or inspiration to pick up a guitar. And I mean, what's better than that, really?
Yeah, I agree.
That to me is cooler than any like magazine article I could have been in.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. That was special. Like as like oh, hey, hey mom, look what I did.
Yeah.
Like that's fun. But this is like, that kind of stuff is another level. And and so and again, so that's where I'm like, one day I'll probably create something again in maybe a band capacity. I don't know, or maybe I'll just join a band for fun and try something new, like play a different instrument, like whatever it is. I'm not I'm not ruling anything out. I'm kind of shifting my focus in different areas, because for me it's like doing music like this doesn't feel all that different. If that makes sense. It's just maybe I sleep a lot better now because I'm not in the back of a van or tour bus or on a plane or something, and it's
there's only so much you can run on 3 hours sleep. Definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Right, so just from that, the whole community thing, let's kind of take a bit of a therapist's view on this. Did you feel that when you were learning to play guitar and getting into your bands for the first time, that you didn't have that facility to be able to play shows?
At first I did not know. When I was really young, I thought, I didn't know local gigs really existed, if that made sense. As I became older, the first experience that I had of anything like that was like my friends would get their band on like some sort of battle of the bands type bill thing. And, the local bands had to sell tickets for the thing. It's kind of this like Ponzi scheme for young musicians, unfortunately. But and so like I went to stuff like that, which was fun because I got to support my friends, but the shows were lame. And it really like wasn't like the other bands would always be terrible, or it was just, there was always this like funny, like weird, the idea of it being a competition. I hate that. I hate music as a competition. I think that sucks. Like I think like healthy competition of being like, oh man, we just watched this band play like an amazing set. Okay, well we can't like phone it in tonight, boys. That kind of thing. Like that I think is cool. But in regarding it being like, I need to be a winner and I need to I need to sell more of this or that, and this means more. Like that's all bullshit. There's plenty of fucking there's plenty of like music to go around for everybody and enough space for everyone to win. But it wasn't until I got into the local hardcore music scene that I really understood the DIY mentality of being like, okay, well, if these venues in the city won't give us the time of day and let us book a gig. And then of course the other scenario for us was most of those venues in Toronto you couldn't even go to, or you definitely couldn't play there and have a show if you weren't over 19. And so that was the drinking age, and that was like really difficult. So the barrier would be, okay, well, we would get local halls out in the suburbs and people would rent them out, and and so basically that's just, and you just play on a floor. Half the time there just wasn't stages. And that was cool for me because I started going to gigs and I would see these amazing bands, and like bands that would be traveling from all over the world and they would come play these fucking community centers and Masonic lodges and
Yeah.
just absolutely pour their hearts out. And
Mhm.
and you know, and they would bring tons of records and distros and I don't know, like political zines and
Yeah.
info pamphlets, and just my mind was getting like absolutely like
Mm.
steamrolled with so much fucking
Yeah.
awesome counterculture, and I fucking
Yeah.
loved it. Like it was like
Yeah.
it was the best thing ever, because the
Mm.
thing that I loved about it too was that I was like, this has been going on and I had no idea.
Mm.
I just
Mhm.
was not connected to it yet. I
Mm.
wasn't old enough.
Yeah, it's like a subculture that you've just
Yeah.
like discovered. This like doors opened. You're like, holy shit, this is
Yeah, yeah,
this
exactly.
is real. Yeah.
Well, exactly, especially because
Mm.
like when I was younger, the only hardcore I knew about was New York hardcore.
Yeah.
And you know, like Sick of It All, Biohazard, Madball, Agnostic Front, like Chrome Eggs, all that stuff. Like
Mhm.
I knew about that, but I was just like, but that's New York, that's
Yeah.
America, that's the
Yeah.
big time anyway.
Mm.
Like,
Mm.
you know, being a kid from Canada, that's like that's 12 hours away from here, and that's a whole other fucking world. And I look up
Yeah.
to those people as much as I do you know, like the guys in Metallica practically, you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so for me to understand that there's this other like very underground hardcore scene where everything was smaller
Yeah.
and local bands of all different kind of shapes and sizes could get involved, and it was not about rock stars.
Mm.
There was no rock stars. That like didn't exist. It was more just where we have a space to like
Mm.
vent our frustrations from our teenage lives
Yeah.
uh and um and go have fun. And
Yeah.
I think the other thing too was that I really liked it because I wasn't a kid who was into like partying, doing drugs and drinking and stuff. Like uh you know, I kind of felt like peer pressured into a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I just got really fucking excited about music all the time. I'd
Yeah.
spend all my money on records.
Mm.
And when friends of mine started wanting to like focus on putting all their like money towards like
Mm.
alcohol and drugs and stuff to go
Yeah.
like party,
Mhm.
that was just boring to me, because
Yeah.
all I wanted to do was like go somewhere and listen to the new record. Like I used to carry around like a stereo with me, like a boombox basically.
Yeah.
And I would literally, you know, every time I would see my friends and be like, oh, check out this new record. I couldn't wait to like show them new music that I
Yeah.
discovered.
Mm.
And that was like a special
Yeah.
pastime. And so when like people kind of stopped caring about that, and just things just got weird. I don't know. I just found like this crossroads, and then I discovered this like DIY local hardcore scene
Yeah.
that was just absolutely like, you know, of course there's shit like that involved too, but
Yeah.
it was just so much more culture focused
Yeah.
and music focused. And
Yeah.
and I was like meeting new people who were just like really different than any of the people in my neighborhood. And I don't know, I kind of fell in love, and that was like,
Yeah.
you know, the inspiration of being able to do a band like Cancer Bats.
Mm.
You know, because I had been in like other bands, like my first band that I was ever in was kind of like this like goth industrial band. And I grew up liking a lot of music like that too. And so like I didn't care. I just like I played guitar and I wanted to play guitar in any band. So
Yeah.
a buddy of mine asked me to join his industrial band, and I did that. And like and that was like my kind of like first experience of like touring in the late 90s. And that was a lot of fun, and you know, like an eye opener in a lot of ways, of how hard it is to do something with a band where you're not part of a real scene.
Mm.
So like it was like Toronto had this like ironic thing with like the goth industrial scene, where it was like there was like 3 or 4 goth bands or industrial bands, whatever you want to call them, at the time in the city, and half of them hated each other. And there was like all these like goth bars that would just like literally, it was just DJs playing music, but they like didn't really want to have live music involved in most of them.
Yeah.
And so it was this weird thing where you
Yeah.
couldn't get, it was so hard to try to get something happening or get people to care.
Mm.
And it just felt like so disconnected. And then I can remember the first time I like joined a hardcore band, and the show was instantly 10 times better on our first show, because just the open-mindedness of the community in the hardcore scene was just so much better.
Yeah.
And so much, I don't know, it just made
Yeah.
sense. It was just like, okay, everything, like when I would go to hardcore shows and I would think about trying to do a band in that scene versus any of the like general rock arena, nothing seemed possible there. Everything seemed possible in hardcore.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
And so like
Yeah.
that was cool, because it instilled like a fearlessness where being like, we can promote our own shows, we
Yeah.
can book our own tours, or like all we have to do is just meet other bands and we'll help them get shows and they'll help us get shows. And then
Yeah.
now they're all our best friends,
Yeah.
and we're just not going to stop. And
Yeah.
and I think like that was a special time. And I want more of that to exist now, because I feel like since my generation and the generation kind of just before, like I'll take it back to like the guys in Alexis on Fire really like helped explode the music scene in Canada, especially. But that time and that period in general, where, how do I say it, like the mainstream started focusing on the bands that came from those like local independent scenes and being like, hey, these are the next bands we're going to push and like get into the forefront, and that's going to become cool. Like as that happened, and what we did and where we came from became mainstream, or more accessible. Mainstream is not the right word, but more accessible. Was and easier to find. And I think that's also because the internet blew everything up. I think that like a lot of the local, just like starting from nothing, like you're in the worst venue with bands with the worst gear, and half of them aren't great, but when they are, it's so awesome. And like I don't know, it just it just felt special. Whereas now everyone's a little bit more spoiled for choice, I think. And anyways, I just want to see more people have that like drive where it's like, I want to be able to do I want to be able to do this. I don't have to be a rock star to do it. I can exist on a level, like even a band like Cancer Bats. We're not like we weren't the biggest band of all time. We did really well. Like, you know what I mean? But like, we're not like on the same like level as a lot of those other bands that like are friends of ours or whatever. And that's fucking awesome. Who cares? Who cares? Like, we were able to make a living, and that alone was always good enough for all of us. Like, we felt awesome about that. And I think like, just being able to sustain your life and do something you love, that's cool. And to me, so if like more bands would be willing to like give that a go, and that's so many of the things that I see now with bands that I work with, is that they show up and they go, we don't know what to do, and oh my god, that seems so hard and so expensive, and like, oh, like, where are we gonna stay, and how are they don't know. I'm like, where are you gonna stay? Live in your fucking vehicle, man. Like, just like,
make it work.
You're gonna stay in the Walmart parking lot. You're gonna you're gonna stay in the hotel parking lot because you can get Wi-Fi. Like, it just like all these like, and there's like a toilet you can use 24 hours. It's one of those things where I don't know, some of that like ingenuity and like resourcefulness that like we had to do just out of
necessity.
Lack of out of necessity. Exactly. And I always try to like get a little bit more of that into the bands that I help. And I really love working with bands that have a hunger that's just innate to them. And that kind of, I find that spark really, really exciting. There's a band from Toronto that I manage called Napoleon, and they're exactly the embodiment of that. I met them, and they were just so excited and hungry and just like love all kinds of music, and will go to like every local show, and they're so in touch with like what's going on in locally. And if it's not, they're the type of band to like put on their own shows and book their own tours. And I absolutely was just like, okay, like I became like best buds with those guys and like helped them as much as I could. And it just like those kinds of personalities and that those types of bands are just, that inspires me, because that just gives me that energy that like, my band had when we were young. I can remember when, Liam and I would just be like, okay, like we've got a van, let's go on tour. Who cares if we don't make money? Like that's, it's about what could be possible rather than like a laundry list of reasons not to do things. It's just like taking risks and the other thing that I keep kind of like instilling people, being like, listen, like, yes, it's a music business. Yes, you have to like think about certain things like that you don't want to think about art and creativity as like a transaction and like a way to make money or all the time or whatever. I know that's not cool. Like there's some smart, simple like accounting things or economics and business that like pay attention to, and like you'll do better because of that. Like I mean that's great, but like don't play music because that's your goal, like to make money like that. You gotta it's gotta be a passion driven thing.
It's gotta come from here first and then
it's gotta come from here. And because people are drawn to honesty, and I really believe that most people can see through, they can see through things that are fake and and dishonest, and I'm just always encouraging bands to just be like, stop worrying, just fucking do it.
Just like, worry about it afterwards.
Get
it out.
Oh well,
get it out.
Just get it out. Go play some shows. Oh well, I don't know if I'm gonna make enough gas money to do. And I'm like, I get it, but you've got a part-time job. Like, is your bank account empty? No. Like, I don't know. Like, it's probably worth it to go like play to a show that's, I don't know, like 4 hours from here, and you don't know if it's going to be good or not, because it's just fun to play music on stage with your friends. Like if you can't like get past that like basic point of like, hey, this is good enough to do this because of this, maybe reevaluate your priorities.
It's like driving a car along the highway with an anchor attached to it, and that's always going to be there, isn't it, to make you second guess yourself and stuff.
100%.
Right, I've got some fan questions, so
awesome.
We'll move on to them quickly.
Yes.
Okay, so 2 seconds. My friend Jim, who's been on the podcast in the past, what does a band need to survive these days? You now mentor a lot of bands, and what would you say is the top 3 things that artists miss? We've kind of trod that in a way, but just to sum up, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, to survive. I mean, against what? But anyway, like I think the main things that, again, I really think a band needs to focus a lot more on their songwriting. Most bands, young ones specifically, don't pay enough attention to how good their songs are, and a lot of people will accept that their basic ideas in their initial state are good enough to just record and put on a record. I really think some of the best Cancer Bat stuff was put together because we were methodical in our way of trying to write more songs than we needed on records, and trying to choose some of the better ones, and went through a lot of refining stages. And we would show our music to other people and producers and get musical input. We wouldn't just like hire an engineer to record our band. We'd hire producers. And if we weren't like, when we weren't at the level where we'd be able to kind of like self-produce a lot better, we would invite other friends that we respected in our bands to be like, what do you think? Do you have any like suggestions, ideas? Like, like, and and we got some like really invaluable stuff that way.
Yeah.
And I think that you know, being open to that and taking in the criticism, a lot of people shut themselves off and they're too scared to like be vulnerable and have somebody critique the way they do things. But
Yeah.
I think like my band would not have gone anywhere near as far as we did if we didn't have someone teach us how to be better songwriters and have somebody like produce our performances and teach us how to make better records and become better musicians. So like really focus on a lot of that shit. I think is like massively important. The other thing would be I really think it's worthwhile to invest in equipment that's going to last you while touring. You know, that's you know, there's nothing worse than, you know, meeting the bands on the road who's like all their gear's broken and they, you know, they didn't think about, oh, maybe I have to like maintain my amplifiers that I'm using every day of the year forever, or oh shit, maybe I should like buy spare guitar strings or bring a spare guitar on tour. Things like that, you know, people overlook. Unfortunately, it's there is something to the expression buy nice or buy twice. And you know, I realized that a lot, like where in the beginning I just bought whatever was cheapest. I think like if you can't buy like the prosumer version of something, or like the like a decent price thing, or buy the cheap thing and then modify it with good parts, if that makes sense. Like for like people to like buy cheap guitars and put better pickups and hardware. Like if you can't at least do that, I mean, you're gonna have a hard time on the road. That's gonna be tricky. The other thing is, and this is kind of like more important than anything. This goes back to the thing that I was saying about the competition sides of things. A lot of bands aren't friendly enough to other bands. And they don't realize that like if they make stronger friendships with every band that they meet and all these people that they meet in the music scene, always, like if you can be as like nice and respectful as possible, that can carry you so far in the industry. And I really think like you know, like Cancer Bats like flew on that like that method like for most of our career, and in a lot of ways people liked us, and we had good experiences, and we're always like polite and thankful as much as possible, you know. Apologize to anyone we ever weren't, but you know what I mean. It's one of those things that like today my friends in the UK, they're in a band called Hidden Mothers, and on Twitter today I saw one of them write, I think the nicest band I ever met in, you know, all my years of being in the music was Cancer Bats or something. And that, you know, I'm like, oh, that was a really nice thing for them to say, right? But I mean, I think it's just sort of like that basic common courtesy. I think of an example, like I was working with a band, and they had a scenario where they were opening for a band that was touring from South America. Okay, at a local gig, and basically the promoter hit them up and was like, hey, the band doesn't have very much gear, can you lend them an amp and some drums or something like that? And they were like, you know, initial response was, yo, what the fuck, like what, they don't tour with their own stuff? Like what's wrong with these people? Like, no, like I'm not gonna let some like stranger like play my thing, my amp. Like I just bought this like new expensive amp. And I was like, and they turned around and asked me like, yo, isn't this crazy? Shouldn't we like get mad about this? And I was like, no, you should turn this into a win for yourself instead of you know, a point of negativity, because you're going to turn around and you're going to make a stink about it, and people are going to go, oh, there's the people that wouldn't help us. So they're either going to ignore you or think you're a dick. if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And
No, it
here's the
makes
thing:
sense.
nobody has to. You don't have to be intimidated in it.
Mm.
I'm just saying that here you have the opportunity that if you did help them,
Mm-hmm.
you become the person that helped them instead
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
person who didn't. And they're going
yeah,
to remember the person that helped, or they're going to remember the person that was a jerk and
yeah,
really tell everybody about that, right?
yeah.
And so instead, the guy was like, "Well, I'm not really that comfortable with somebody playing my new amp,
Mm-hmm.
but you know what? Like, my friend works at a music store. I can like hire a decent bass amp, and I can,
Yeah,
and whatever, they can use that." And then the promoter was like, "Wow, really? You'd be willing to do that?" And he's like, "Yeah, okay." And then sure enough, he goes and does it. Band uses the amp, and is like, promoter tells a story. Hey, like, they heard you needed an amp, so like they just helped you rent one, and like they're not asking for money. And then they were like, "Oh my god, this is the nicest thing ever." And it became like this thing of them being like,
yeah,
"Wow, can we, like, you guys are the
mm,
best. We want to play more shows with you." Like, and so like here they are like opening for this band, and they turned it into this thing where like the band that they're
mm,
helping can't help but want to be best friends with them.
yeah,
You know, and you turn that scenario into a win for yourself,
yeah, yeah,
instead of being the like, "Oh, I'm not going to help them,
yeah.
blah 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 blah." And here's the thing: they had no reason not to help them.
Mm,
They hadn't even met them as people yet.
mm,
It'd be one thing if they were like, "Oh, I just watched them play and they smash all their stuff on stage. I
yeah,
don't trust them with my
yeah, yeah.
expensive gear." I get that. We've all
Absolutely.
been there and said no in those situations too.
Yeah,
But they were able to turn a situation where they didn't need to be negative into something that like actually provided value for others. And it was like,
yeah,
and so like I really kind of like to instill that sort of mentality, that's like this go-giver mentality. And
yeah,
you're you're just try to be that good person will
yeah,
go so much further than any other thing that you're going to do.
yeah.
I mean, aside from like you can get into all the NFTs and all the
Mm,
social media stuff you want,
mm-hmm.
but like if you're not known as like a decent person,
Yeah,
it's going to work against you.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, so like I mean
Fair
that
enough.
those it's a lot of like basic and sort of like
Yeah.
existential kind of like advice, but really like it's everything. I
So
really
we've
think it
got
is.
peer review, we've got equipment, get good equipment, and we've got
Yeah,
network and help each other out.
yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Right. I've got another question from Jim, which is if you could get any guitar pedal in the world to do anything, what would you want the guitar pedal to do for you to help you out?
Oh wow. um uh I would get a guitar pedal that would change my strings for me.
Sweet.
Yeah, just to save time and never have to do that
Yeah.
again.
I hate
Never have to think about it.
I hate
I the
restraint.
I'll say this. I enjoyed changing my strings on
Okay.
tour for the most part. For the most of my career, it became like this, especially like in Cancer Bats, like it became like a daily ritual where I'd sit down, put on some music or a podcast that I love, and I would just like
Mm,
that'd be like my meditation zone. The guys would go get coffee, I'd be like changing my strings,
yeah.
cleaning up my guitar, making it nice. I love that.
Hmm.
But now in the studio, it's like it's just like a time suck out of my day
Yeah.
for when I have to do that. If
Yeah.
like if I'm like, oh, okay, I need fresh strings on this guitar, and I'm that guy. Like I don't like the
Mm,
sound of old guitar strings. Like I can
yeah.
hear when they're dead. I like guitars to have a sparkle and a
Yeah.
twang, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and that
Absolutely.
new sound and feel. Like that's really important to me. But because I don't, that's not a part of my day anymore.
Yeah.
Just the thought of going, oh, I've got to restring like 4 guitars for the next session.
Yeah.
Like that's gonna take me X amount of time. Yeah, if I could have a guitar that would just be a little robot to change my strings
Yeah.
for me, that
Yeah.
would be fun.
That's an
Yeah,
awesome answer. I love that. Got two more questions,
yeah,
then we'll riff it and go from there. So my friend Wizzy, who is the guitarist of a local band called Fisher of Riddles, shout out to Fisher of Riddles. Have
Cool.
you always been the only guitarist in the bands that you've been involved with, or have you had someone else to sort of parlay ideas off?
No, like actually that was the one of the main reasons I started Cancer Bats, is because I wanted to be in a band where I was the only guitar player. All the other bands that I had been in my life, actually, if I think about before, if I'm just going through, yeah, like all the other bands that I had been in weren't bands that I started myself.
Yeah.
They were all bands that I had joined that other people had like either had already going for a while, or they had just started before I was in the band. So I was like the second guitar player. And yeah, in the band before Cancer Bats that I was in, uh, that was it. Like I was the second guitar player joining, and then the original guy left. So then I was kind of like the main guitar player, and then a second guitar player came, and then that I think I just kind of got like a little bit sick of again, it just felt like a weird competition thing, if that made sense.
Yeah.
In some ways. And also just I think because Cancer Bats originally was started as like a fun project, as opposed to this is going to be my serious band for the next like 20 years.
Yeah.
What I wanted something totally different. I wanted to try a very different style of playing from the other bands that I had been in on purpose. I wanted to like fuck around with the instrument a lot more. And I knew that if I had like another guitar player, and at least in the beginning, you know, I'm saying like this, like if I had another guitar player that I had to like fight to have ideas, to have space, like I think that was you know, something I wanted explicitly to avoid, because I wanted my creative vision for it, you know, and I wanted to collaborate with the people I chose to. I wanted that, and I liked having that, you know, that say in things from the ground up. That was the whole excitement about starting the band. And then when it took off, I mean, I think like, you know, both Liam and I had been in other bands that had done some stuff, and like, you know, we had fun. But we both got really excited when people started caring about the thing that we were just doing for as like for ourselves, if that makes sense, you know. And it was really cool that way. And again, I think that goes back to that, some of that like honesty of like we were just trying to do something we thought we would really like. And as opposed to thinking the other way. Actually, that would be like a bonus number 4. Don't make music for other people. Don't make stuff that you think other people are gonna like. Do your thing. Do the thing that you're gonna love. Because you'll do that thing better than whatever trying to chase a trend or like or follow what someone else is already doing, because you'll likely not do it as well. You're way better at being you than anyone else. And so I think that was it. And that was an exciting thing. I think I found where just like one last tidbit about being the only guitar player is like when we started the band, it was the first time where I started getting compliments on like the tone and how it sounded, or like my playing. And that was like, oh, that's inspiring me. Like, oh, okay, cool. Like I'm going to work on that even more. Okay, I'm going to get like an even better amp, a better guitar. I'm going to like practice this and try to get better at something new. And like that was a lot of fun. And I think like there's like it's like a really good like anecdote. I remember when one of the first times I saw the band Converge play, and I was in high school, and I went and saw them, and it was basically right after their guitar player Aaron quit or got kicked out. I can't remember, but he went and joined the band Bane that he was in as like a full-time guitar player, and left Converge. And I remember going up to Kurt Ballou at the show and being like, hey, like, how come you guys don't have another guitar player anymore? Like you're playing everything just yourself now, instead of like, because they were always a 2 guitar band. People
Yeah.
probably don't remember that, but they were always a 2 guitar band forever. And I asked him, and he was like, you know what, like whatever, like, that guy's want to play different music, and that's cool. But I think the new version of this band is tighter with only 1 guitar player.
Yeah.
And with us playing the type of music we do, it's tighter and it's clearer. Like it sounds better.
Yeah.
And I went, huh, oh, that's cool. And then I thought to myself, like, well, what other bands do I like that have 1 guitar player? Oh, okay, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Pantera, White Zombie, just like loads of bands that were like really important to me.
Yeah.
Musically, I was like, I mean, I'm not a guitar god like, all those guys that I just mentioned, but I thought, well, why not?
Yeah.
Why can't I try that? And I think that
Yeah.
was the cool thing again about the like fearlessness that hardcore gave us. Just like, well, fuck it, let's go for it. Like, you know what, like and that was like where we started experimenting with amps a little bit, being like, okay, I'm the only guitar player in the band. People kept being like, oh, it won't sound as full because you only have 1 guitar. That's what kind of like people were like negative about the idea, because nobody was
Yeah.
doing that at first
Yeah.
locally. And then so what I did was I got more cabinets and I spread them out on either side of the stage with longer speaker cables. And we did that with the bass guitar too. So we would have this big sort of fake stereo sound,
Yeah.
and people stopped complaining about that idea really quickly. It was just
Yeah.
more like, holy shit, how do you sound that big? Like, fuck. And
Yeah.
like, and that was like just more encouragement. And yeah, I don't know. I think there's like a lot of beauty in the simplicity. I
Yeah.
don't think things have to be like more complex to be
For the sake of it.
better.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. So Sam Welch, friend of the podcast again, wants to know what your favorite Cancer Bats song is.
Oh, that's so hard.
You can
There's
pick
so
2
many.
because there are a lot. I'll give you my 2 if you want.
Okay, let's start with your 2.
Lucifer's Rocking Chair.
Yeah.
And oh man, this is hard. Why did I volunteer to go first? I think it's got to be Through and Through and Through.
Oh, well, we didn't even write that song, so there you go. That's a cover, but yeah.
You did the Metallica thing of what was that when they did like 2 albums of covers? I can't even remember. Was it Garage Inc?
Yeah, Garage Inc. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that cover was a lot of fun actually.
Yeah.
That was like an impromptu thing, and I remember, I forget who suggested it, Liam or Mikey, somebody. And it was just like, I don't know, it was a random idea of, we were going to play in the songwriter is this guy Joel Plaskett, which a lot of people in Canada know, especially older people. And like, if you've heard the original, it could not be more different than the version we play. But yeah, I mean, we always had fun with covers that, like, when we tried to do them, we tried to do them in our own style as opposed to just mimic the band that we loved and make it sound like theirs. We would just go like that, and I think that's why we had success with Sabotage.
I was about to ask about that. Yeah.
I mean, that's awesome. I don't know, I think I was always like, as far as songs that I really liked, I mean, yeah, like Lucifer's great. That's like, I mean, it's always so much fun to play. But I'm gonna like hold off on that one. I think like, I'm trying to think like what favorite. Rats is up there, off DSOL. I really like that one. It's just like the riffs in it are just a lot of fun to play, and I just think the song came out great, and the recording too. I mean, it's really hard for me to pick what I think would be
Mm.
the best, but I'm just trying to think if there's anything off like
Yeah.
Bears that is really good. I don't know. I mean, like, I don't want to like cop out and say like Hail Destroyer, but
Yeah.
like in some ways,
Yeah. I
I
get you.
mean, the song was just so effortless to write, and it was like I got a new guitar that day, and the song just came out the second I played it.
Mm.
It just like like that was a lot of fun. I remember the first times we had like a connection with the crowd when
Yeah.
we played. It was just one of those songs where it's like we were playing to people that never seen us before, didn't know our music, and definitely didn't know that song,
Yeah.
and they'd be singing along by the end. And I just like was like,
Mm.
fuck, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like when Liam came up with the name, like and the vocal, it's just like everything like came together so well. I really like Death's March off that record
Mm.
too. It's really simple, like I mean, guitar wise and everything, but I think just like the lyrics and the emotion behind it is always a lot of fun for me. It's really tough when you've written like 100 songs. It's like
It's like
it's
picking children.
yeah, kind
Yeah.
of like I mean, there's definitely like ones that like I where I'm like that's maybe not like my favorite, but
Yeah. I got you.
um
Yeah.
yeah, I think like just any song that was like really fun to play live, like
Yeah.
Bricks and Mortar, Road Sick was always cool.
Hmm.
Sleep This Away or Scared to Death was rad. Um, I mean, like newer stuff that we did, like Space and Time or Winter Peg was cool. Um, yeah, there's like, and then there was like, like, and then we like kind of had our like, like on Searching for Zero, like there was some like rad stuff on that. Like I really like the song Satellites when we would play it live. That was a lot
Yeah.
of fun. Um,
Nice.
yeah. I mean,
Fair
that's the thing.
enough.
Like I have fond memories of like
Yeah.
all of it.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
to looking back, it's like there's a lot of pride in there. So yeah, like you said, hard to pick
Yeah. That's
from
it.
your kids who your favorite is.
Nice.
Yeah,
Right. I've got two more questions and I'm going to leave you to it. So,
yeah.
Dave Gig, one of my friends, has asked what the weirdest fan interaction you've ever had has been, slash, weirdest tattoo you've ever seen someone imprint onto their own skin and show you at a gig or something.
But actually, it has nothing to do with Cancer Bats and everything to do with my band before that.
Yeah.
Where there's this weird ass fan who contacted my band and asked us to perform at her birthday party, and which we were like, okay, like, but it wasn't presented it quite that way. It was sort of, hey, I'm putting on a show for my
Yeah.
birthday, a gig. It's at this venue, which was like a community center, which made sense to us because we played gigs like that all the time. And anyways, like we turned up and it was like literally like playing a gig to like like Nan and Granddad and aunts and uncles and
Yeah.
an awkward selection of like teenagers, and it was really weird. And here we were playing like European death metal meets black metal, like hardcore. Like it was, yeah, like we're
Yeah.
just playing the most extreme music, and like this did not make sense. And
Great.
anyway, this person turned out to be a bit of a uh unfortunately, like a bit of a loose cannon, I guess.
Mm.
And after the show, she got really excited and kind of hyper obsessed and kind of
Mm.
in not cool ways of like just borderline harassment, stalking.
Mm.
And anyways, she would pop up at like loads of our gigs, and at one point she carved our band name into her arm with a razor blade, and that
Yeah.
was absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I grew up loving Slayer and and having the the record where the dude carves Slayer in his arms, and whatever, and like, you can, it's like really like easy to laugh at that from afar.
Yeah.
And like, and obviously like 20 something years later, I can laugh at this scenario, but it was like the most uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I think like that was pretty like being
yeah.
like, okay, this is not good.
Yeah.
And
This isn't what I signed up for.
no,
Yeah.
and like had to had to just kind of put a stop to that and be like, okay, we can't really be nice about this stuff anymore. Like, this is not acceptable.
No.
And anyway, so that was one of the worst. I mean, I think there's like, I think anything that like where kind of people disrespect your personal space, and those kinds of scenarios where like people are really excited to see you, so then they jump on you.
Yeah.
Like that kind of like stuff is never really that cool. Like,
yeah,
I get people are excited, but it's a really weird thing being screamed at by strangers. You know what I'm saying? Like, who are drunk and just like a little bit surly. I always found that stuff annoying. Most of the time when people show us tattoos, they're amazing. Like there are so many freaking incredible Cancer Bats tattoos. It like blows my mind.
Yeah.
The amount of like money and skin people have dedicated to like, the band. It's awesome. But at the, I think like, that was it. And I how do I say it? Like, so many of them did it in ways that were not creepy and weird, and just very honest. Like flat. They're honest, flattering. Would send us photos, or people would even ask us permission and be like, "Do you think, is it okay if I do this?" Of course, it's okay.
Yeah, it's your body.
Yeah. I always felt like, the only ones that like I ever like kind of felt bad about would be people would be like, "Sign my arm, I want to get it tattooed."
Okay.
And I'd be like, "You don't need my signature tattooed on you. That's like, I mean, like." And the other thing is, skin is really hard to write on. Like, because when someone's like on my arm and it's like sweaty and you've got this like,
you've got hairy arms.
Sharp, like it's just not it's not like a great thing. Anyway,
fantastic.
Just have to laugh.
That's
about
fine.
It.
Nice. Quick shout out to Brain Stew podcast, who did a to Z, and you were in C, you guys. So I'll send you a link to that if you want at some point. And I was on the I last week, and that was In Me, who are my favorite band ever. So that will go out on Saturday. So that's
they're called In Me.
Yeah, my favorite band from the UK, called In Me.
Oh, I don't know them. I'll have to check them out.
Oh, they're fantastic. I love them. They're from Essex, near London.
But I love Essex.
Brain Stew podcast, shout out as always, my boys. And also, there's a friend that I know quite well, who used to cut my hair actually, called Kyle Davis. And he adores Cancer Bats. He absolutely loves Cancer Bats. And
amazing.
So shout out to Kyle, because I can't do an episode with you and not mention that.
What's up, Kyle?
Kyle Davis, that's it. Yeah. So hobbies that aren't music, Scott. What do you like doing when you're not riffing and producing?
I'm a big Arsenal supporter, so I love football in general. I mean, that was one of the like amazing things about touring Europe in general. Would be that I could go and go to different stadiums and matches on days off. That was always a blast. I mean, I like I love watching movies and TV and stuff like that, video games, like a little bit, reading books. I love cooking. I should say I'm a big foodie. I love cooking and trying, new restaurants and different cuisines and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the food world is really fascinating and interesting to me. That's definitely a big passion, but yeah, I think
awesome.
that'd be it. Yeah,
of course. Nice. So last question, what I try and ask
Yep.
all the guests, what does the future look like for the next sort of 1, 2 to 5 years?
I mean, I'm definitely going to focus on making as many amazing records as possible with bands. Opening the studio today, or not today, but this month really has
Yeah.
been just a long time coming, and that's where I'm looking forward. I mean, I really want to achieve a lot more in that realm, and really help people
Mm.
put on tape the you know the really important emotions that they need to capture. Like that's just such like
Yeah.
an awesome like journey in itself, and that's just kind of my mission, is just really like helping others that way, like as much as possible. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, just trying to be a good family man. I think like that's
Yeah.
looking forward. I mean, we spoke about most of that, like
Mm.
that's my plan right now. I yeah, I want to see where else I can let music take me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's
Fair enough.
I want to help other bands get up to
Mm.
the level that that Cancer Bats was able to achieve. Like
Yeah.
that's my dream, is
Mhm.
how many more bands can I help do that. That would be,
Yeah.
those are the goals I have. Yeah.
Good goals. Cool. Is there anything you want to ask me, or is there anything that you want to give a shout out to? Any gear companies, any bands, anything in your world?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I could go on forever. I mean, I've already like named a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you should check out some bands that I've worked on recently. There's a band called Spill Your Guts, who are from Shanghai, China, that just started dropping some singles for their new record.
Yeah.
That's going to be out on Trepanation Records in the UK. They're like a black metal influenced hardcore band. I think a lot of fans of Cancer Bats would really like it.
Okay.
It's like melodic, but there's blast beats and there's hardcore and like really groovy riffs. They're amazing. They're like some of my best friends. Incredible band. There's a band from Canada called Junko Daydream that are really sweet. A bit more like I don't know, sort of like screamo, alternative rock, punk. Really interesting, and really put a lot of emotion into their music. I produce some songs for them. They're great. We're working on a bunch more material now. I already mentioned Napoleon.
Yep. Yep.
Got some singles coming up with them.
Mhm.
I did some mastering for this really rad project called Phantom Lung, which features members of The End and Mare. I don't know if people are into those Canadian metal bands from back in the day, but they're amazing. Trying to think who else. There's so
Yeah.
many. I
It's a
feel
lot,
bad.
isn't it?
I'm
Yeah.
gonna I'm gonna like there's gonna be people I'm forgetting, and they're gonna be like, yo, you
What the
didn't.
fuck?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like yeah, I mean, shout out to Cancer Bats. They're putting
Yeah.
out new music too. It's gonna be great. Like,
Yeah.
definitely keep supporting them. Yeah, I mean, I would love more people to check out the stuff that I do. So like you can find me on like Instagram at
Mhm.
Scobe City, which is
Mhm.
SCOEBCITY,
Yep.
or www.scottmiddletonproducer.com
Mhm.
is my website. You can contact me through either of those. I
Yep.
respond to all my messages and
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, any advice people are looking out for, want to send me some music, want to work together and make records, please hit me
Amazing.
up.
There we
I,
go.
I love making it happen. So
Well,
yeah, I think
amazing.
that's good.
Fantastic.
All right.
Well, Phil,
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
thanks for checking this out, guys. And if you feel really generous and you want to help me on this journey of getting all these mental guests on, then feel free to donate to me on Ko-fi.
Absolute bedlam.
Archie Soul, as always, hooking me up with the beard wash from Duke Cannon. It's got a hint of oak barrel and Buffalo Trace Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. I know that's backwards, I'm sorry. Got some more Duke Cannon here. Same again, Buffalo Trace. This is a bar of soap, as I've mentioned numerous times now in guest episodes. That's a big boy. Bedlam 2022, once again, will get you 20% off everything on archiesoul.com. And for Christmas, I was very kindly given a £25 bottle of Anthony Sea Kelp Scrub, which is absolutely awesome, and I love it. So that's Archie Soul, www.archiesoul.com. And finally, we have made sure, as always, I love fragrances. If anyone knows me in real life, I love candles, I love scents, I love walking into a house and smelling like gingerbread or lemon and lime or strawberries. And I don't think that that's necessarily something that's appreciated by men. And I think it should be, because there's nothing wrong with it. It's always seen as very girly. However, I think that we should normalize it for men. So madesure.pigcartel.com. Bedlam 20, not Bedlam 2022, for 20% off your order. We've got wax melts to suit every emotion, every feeling. We've got Jamaican Me Crazy. This one, you can smell it through the wrapper. It is amazing. It's a really left field scent. It's quite a tropical, fruity smell. We've got lemon and lime. If the camera wants to focus, that would be fantastic. Lemon and lime. There we go. Smell that one as well. They're really powerful, but they're really like sort of punchy, and they're meant to be sort of chunked and sort of separated. You're not meant to put the whole thing in your burner. So yeah, there we go. Pink Flamingo as well is the last one I've got to hand. And we've got Avabath here. Avabath. So yeah, just mind-blowing. Everyone that I've ever sent any Made Sure stuff to has absolutely loved it. And I think that 2022 could be their year. Hopefully going to look at doing some events and some fairs when COVID finally jogs on. But yeah, I'm really, really proud of Hannah for making just these amazing snap bars, wax melts. We're looking potentially at getting burner kits, but that's a little bit way down the road. A lot of people say, you know, how do you use them? And it would be good to do like an all assembled thing. I think Hannah's looking at doing some spring scents soon. And then we'll look into doing it as a seasonal thing, you know, spring, summer, autumn, winter, Halloween, Christmas, that sort of stuff in the middle. But yeah, I absolutely love all my sponsors. I use all of the stuff myself, and I just try and be as genuine as possible with it, really. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you are watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. I'm nearly at 30 subscribers, I think, and I'd like to get to 50 by the end of February if possible. I don't think that's an unachievable task. But yeah, thanks as always for listening, watching, and I hope that the guests that I've just had on has been interesting. So I will speak to you all very, very soon. Keep it Bedlam, and please support the show by supporting my sponsors. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Absolute Bedlam Podcast. Who? What? Where? Why?